Sorry, wobbling. Okay, with this lamp, I forgot to do it before, but I got it at a thrift store, and it was real super shiny mauve. Back when mauve was the big color. But anyway, I want to make it look like stone, so I want to give it highlights, lowlights, and so that means I'm going to start with a dark color first, and I'm using coffee bean. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to add the sea spray because I want it to be like a brownie batter before I stipple it on there. Oh, and what I did already before I used the slick stick, because it was pretty shiny. It was a really shiny glaze, because this is like ceramic, but it was an ugly mauve color. So I used slick stick first, just so that I knew the paint would definitely adhere to it. So then I used, like I said, the coffee bean. With sea spray. And I'm going to stipple this with my brush. See, I'm cutting it off so many times. When it starts getting really thin, I just cut it off, keep using it. These are only, I think, 75 cents. But anyway, once I get this to the and I'm just going to keep applying different colors. I'm going to go from the darkest first on up to I'm going to do chocolate. I'm probably going to use some hurricane gray. That makes things look like cement, stone, natural, like mountain stone. Putty. So I'm picking so many different colors because you want highlights, lowlights, and give you that stone texture. See, now I went the wrong way. All right. I think that looks about right. Okay, so now I will take it and I'm just going to stipple it everywhere. I'm going to do this all over it, everywhere. And you want to use the stippling to give you the texture, the little peaks of paint and texture. Alright, so I'm going to keep doing this whole thing this way and then change colors. Okay, you can see how I did the whole thing. I stippled it all. It's all wet. You see the texture, and that comes from the sea spray mixed with the paint. And stippling it on gives you peaks and texture. So I'm going to let that dry before I apply the next color, and I'll do the same thing, mix it with the sea spray and stipple it on there, but I won't do it solid. I'll do different areas. Alright, now it's all dry and it's ready for the next color, which this time I'm going to use some chocolate. Same thing, I'll put it in the same dish. Pour some in there. And then mix in your sea spray. I don't like to leave the camera run because I feel like it's boring for somebody to sit there and watch all the mixing, and I don't know if you want to or not. Now with the chocolate, I'm going to go sporadically all over. I'm not going to cover the full thing like I did with the coffee. So I'm going to go in there with a brush and do the stippling just like I did. That could be a little thicker. It's not textured as heavy. So I should make that a little thicker. There we go. Okay, now. There, much better, much better. I'll go in there and just do it. Just different spots. You gotta make sure you stipple. You can't brush it because it won't look natural. It will not look natural at all if you brush it. Alright, so see, this is going to give you the highlights and lowlights and texture by going different colors, different layers. The more layers, the more realistic it looks. Okay, now I'll let that dry before I go on with another color. Okay, I'm not going to wait for that to dry because I'm going to put the gray in the darker areas. This is Hurricane Gray. Mixed with the sea spray. Okay, now with that, I'll do in the opposite areas that I just did the chocolate. Alright, now that I'm going to let dry before I go in here with the next color. I think gravel road would look good on this too. But sandbar I think I'm going to do next. Alright, now I'm using the lightest color on it. And what I did was I used the sandbar. So it's, I took the sandbar, I put it in a dish, I added sea spray. So I wanted to show you this because it's still a little pasty. I mixed it up, it was way too thick. So what I do is I either add more paint or I just take the distilled water and add that to thin it out a little bit because it was too thick. So you can always, if you get it too thick, you can always thin it back out. If you get it too thin, you can always add more sea spray. Alright, so now with this color, I'm going to tap it all over. Okay. And again, you want to stipple. You want to do the tapping, the stippling, because that gives you the peaks, the texture. So I'm going to go all over and do that. I don't think you want to watch me do this whole lamp, so I'll shut it off and come back. But you get the idea. I'm just going all over with this one. I'm not going to do in there because if you see, this is adding highlights. And that's where like natural shadows would be. Alright, this is what it looks like. It's still wet. That's the sandbar. So now I put some gravel road in a dish. And I'm sort of like, just like offloading some of the paint. And now I'm going to go around. And I didn't add sea spray to this, because this is my last layer. I wanted all those other layers to peek through. So now I'm going to take like this gravel road and I'm just going to go all over here. And you see all the other colors that I had put on there peeking through. So it will look like a stone cement. Sometimes what I even do is I pour out, I left this dish here because I'll take sometimes and I'll pour out some sea spray, the powder, the sea spray powder, and I will dip my brush in there as to give it like, if you ever see some limestone, it'll give you like a white powdered look. So I've done that too. But I see the sandbar is coming through enough to give me that limestone look that I was looking for. So I probably won't use the sea spray. So I'm going to do this all over it. With the gravel road. This is one of my favorite colors too. Gravel road. So I'm going to stipple this whole base, or whole lamp with the gravel road. And I don't want it heavy because I want it to, the other colors to be peeking through it. I will I probably am going to use the flat top coat because I don't want any kind of sheen on this when I'm finished. So I'm probably going to use the flat top coat on it later when it's dry, after it sits long enough. And it'll all be sealed, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the shade yet, the top of the shade. It's an off-white right now, but I don't know what I want to do with it. I haven't decided. With Dixie Belle, you can paint fabric. You can paint anything. Plastic, glass, metal, wood, fabric, many. Alright. So I think that's where I want it. Now you can keep doing stuff. I mean, but I just keep doing textured layers until it looks the way I want it to look. So right there, I think I'm going to call that done. Other than the top coat. So I'm happy with that. It's very textured. It's going to have a stone feel to it. So I think tomorrow I'll put a top coat on it. Like I said, the flat. And I use the same brush. Okay. So I guess I'll do the top coat tomorrow and show you, excuse me, the finished product. Okay, so I'm hoping I'm not making a mistake here, but my creative side of my brain said to put, okay, this is holy guacamole. This is Spanish moss. So as I looked at it, it looked like it needed that on the shoulders and this shoulder and this shoulder, like moss would grow on rocks. But when your creative side kicks in and says try this, don't be afraid to try it, because if it doesn't work, I can still cover all that up later. So go ahead and let your creativity flow. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on half the brush the holy guacamole. Top side of the brush, I'm going to use Spanish moss. And I'm going to tap that on there. Like rocks naturally grow moss. Like I said, if it doesn't work, you can always undo it. So just play, go ahead. I mean, what's it going to hurt? So I'm going to go same thing over this shoulder here. I really like the look of the guacamole, actually, better. Like I said, just go ahead and go for it. If it doesn't work, it's fixable. Chalk paint is so resilient. Don't hold back when you think you want to try something and you think you can't change it, because you always can change it. You always can change it. You could put it back where you started. Got a bristle. Okay, actually I like that. But I'm gonna let it sit overnight, because if I don't like it, like I said, I'll just change it back. But I really feel like the guacamole does more of a mossy look than the Spanish moss. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there till tomorrow. So it does look like mossy stuff growing on the shoulders. We'll see tomorrow. All right, so lastly, now I'm going to use, this is the Orange Grove Big Mama's Butter. So this is what I'm going to seal it with. It will make it a little darker. It'll show some shine, but after it cures, it'll be less shiny. It'll be a lot less shiny. It'll be more flat with maybe very tiny bit of sheen. Mama's Butter is a really good top coat for your dark colors. It does end up like making the dark colors, like to use that as your top coat for like caviar. It looks good with the antebellum blue, anything dark. It really makes the piece look a lot richer. Not as much with the lighter stuff, with the lighter colors. It doesn't deepen, like, I don't know how to explain it, like it just richens it. But the darker colors look so much better with the butter on it. So I'm gonna cover this whole lamp base with the butter, and I'll leave this sit overnight, because I'll let the paint, because obviously chalk paint is porous, so I'm going to let the paint absorb the butter, and it gives it a nice seal, top coat. And in the morning, I will wipe it back a little bit, because I don't want it greasy to the touch. So what doesn't get absorbed, I'll wipe back. And then it's on to the lampshade. The lampshade, I'm going to chalk paint that as well. I was trying to decide the color. I think I'm going to go with Sawmill Gravy. I wasn't sure, but I was going to go with some Spanish moss because of this green mossy on the shoulders and such, but I think that will be too much of that color. So I think I'm going to go with the Sawmill Gravy for the lampshade, which is that. So I think that would look better as the lampshade. Yeah. Or I'm sorry. I am sorry. Sandbar. My bad. Sandbar. Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to do on the lampshade. Okay, this all has a coat on it. I'll just leave it sit till tomorrow morning. Alright, I decided to go ahead with the lampshade now. So it's equal parts of paint and water. So it's 1 part paint to 1 part water. Okay. Get that mixed up real good. So yeah, you can chalk paint. Oh my goodness, so many different things. Fabric, metal, glass, wood, plastic, linoleum. Gosh, there's so much you can do. It all depends on, like, your prepping. Okay. Getting everything prepped and ready to take the paint. So, okay. This actually is the way I mix up a wash when I do a wash over top of something. Alright, so now I'm going to take my brush. Actually going to use my brush to get things stirred up a little better. Okay. Just paint your lampshade. Like so. There's a couple different techniques that I saw other Dixie Belle retailers using chalk paint on shades, and this one to me seemed like the most logical, because in using the full paint, I think it's way too thick. It's going to cause, like, I think it would cause too much not letting light come through the shade. So I'm going with the ones I was following where they did the wash, so to speak, where it's 1 part paint and 1 part water. And I see so far, I'm glad I took that route, because now when you put this shade over top of the bulb, it's not gonna dim down the light as much as if you use such a thick paint as plain straight chalk paint. Oh man, I wish I would put an apron on. Okay, so I'm going to go around this whole lamp and do one coat. I'm doing one coat of this. Because like I said, I don't want it to hinder the light coming from the bulb. I don't want it to shade it too much. Oh, yeah, and I ended up going with the sawmill gravy like I originally said. The tones, the undertones of the sawmill gravy, I just think is a nice warm. So, and I usually gravitate to warm colors more so than the cooler, the brighter. So I'm going to go around here, give this thing one coat, and then I'll come back and show you the finished product. I never know when to stop recording because I feel like it's boring when you're watching like this. But if you want me to keep recording, just reach out, let me know. So I try to just give you steps and then stop, and it just seems like a lot of dead time. So, but it's up to you because you're the one watching it. Okay, I'll be right back.